I am thrilled to be here with a renowned speaker, someone who has been very inspiring to so many people, Ari Schonbrun, who is joining me today from quarantine in New York. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm thrilled to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
So for those that aren't familiar, you have one of the most harrowing stories during one of the most harrowing times in the country's history. I would venture to say one of those watershed moments that, now we can tack COVID on as another one of those watershed moments, but certainly something that's changed fundamentally the face of American foreign policy and in many cases, your personal life, which was your experience on September 11th. Maybe tell me a little bit about sort of how you got to working with Cantor Fitzgerald on the high floors of the World Trade Center and sort of your experience, then really how it sort of unleashed the current iteration of you today.
Sure. So I started to work for Cantor in 1993, end of 93. By the way, I missed that first bombing, okay? Because that first bombing was in February of 93.
No, it's not going to happen again. Might as well start working here.
Yeah, I joined them in October of 93. And I've been working for them I actually just left them 3 years ago. So I was working for Cantor. We occupied the top 5 floors of Tower 1 of the World Trade Center, the North Tower. My office was on 101, the 101st floor. Magnificent views, incredible. You can see Kennedy Airport from my office. It was like really, really cool. And on that day, it was like 27 in the morning, and I had my briefcase over my shoulder, I had my cup of coffee in my hands, and I started to walk out the door saying goodbye to my wife and kids. And my wife stopped me because I was supposed to do a book order with my son, and I didn't do it. And she said, "You can't leave the house until you do this book order with him." I spent 20 minutes negotiating with him, and I finally left, and it cost me about 40 minutes. I didn't get to the Trade Center until 20 minutes to 9. I was not a happy camper, I'm going to be honest with you. I was really upset with my wife. Of course, when I got home that night, I was loving her all over the place, but that's to be understood. So I got to the Trade Center about 20 to 9, and I got into an elevator. You couldn't take an elevator up to 101. It wasn't an express to 101. You had to take an elevator to 78. 78 was a sky lobby, and you would switch for elevators to get to the upper floors. And I got into the elevator. There was an elevator that came down on the right side of the lobby. I got into it, took me up to the 78th floor, made a left, and started to go to the elevators that I needed to get to my office. And all of a sudden, I thought a bomb had gone off in the elevator. The entire building shook. The lights went out, the place filled with smoke, and I was literally thrown off my feet. I got to tell you, I was scared. I had never been that scared in my life. I ultimately bumped into a coworker of mine who was on the elevator that I was about to get on when the plane hit, and she had suffered third-degree burns. Her hair was singed, her clothes were burned. She had third-degree burns up and down her arm. She was a wreck. And she saw me and she said to me, "Ari, please help me. Whatever you do, please don't leave me." And I said, "Virginia, I promise I will not leave you. I will help you, and we will get out of here." By the way, we weren't very good friends at the time. As a matter of fact, she was an internal auditor. She almost got me fired the year before. So it was a little bit of a test for me, but I think I passed with flying colors because I did actually. We walked down 7, 8 flights of stairs. We got out of the building.
As this is happening, like, what are you thinking? Like, do you have any idea what happened? Like, what's going on in your mind?
So we didn't know what happened at first. It's a long story. It really is a long story. But as we were walking down the stairs, my cell phone actually rang, which was a miracle in and of itself because there was never any signal in that building. And here I was in the middle of a stairwell in the middle of the building on a day there was no signal anywhere. My phone rang. I picked it up. I went, "Hello?" It was my wife on the other end of the phone. And she was telling me, she was crying, and she was telling me something about a plane going into the building. I had no idea what she was talking about. I said, "Joyce, I'm in a stairwell. I'm on the 75th floor. I'm on my way down. Now is not a good time." I said, "I'll call you when I get out of the building," and I hung up the phone. Now, the good thing about that was the fact that at least I knew that she knew that I wasn't killed when the plane hit. So that was very comforting. There was not much going on. I mean, we weren't walking very fast, Virginia and I, because of the burns and everything else. But we got down to the 50th floor. She told me she can't go on. And I started to coach her, telling her, no, you can do this. And we kept going on. We ultimately got out of the building, and I'll never forget, because I asked the cop, I says, I have a burn victim. What should I do? He says, go across the street in front of the Millennium Hotel. We're setting up a triage center. And he says, there'll be ambulances there. So I took her across the street. Sure enough, an ambulance pulls up, and I get her into the ambulance. What was interesting, then I turned around, I saw the building's on fire, and I turned to a guy standing next to me. I said, how did building 2 get on fire? And the guy looks at me like, what, are you kidding me? See, I never heard the second plane. And people look at me like I'm crazy. They said, how's that possible? I mean, it was a roaring, I was so focused on the task at hand. It was my survival, it was Virginia, that I had blocked everything else out. I never heard that second plane. Guy looks at me, says to me, 2 jetliners went into the building. They're calling it a terrorist attack. I'm going like, oh my God. I'm really nervous. I'm trying to call my wife. I'm trying to call Virginia's mom to let her know. She gave me the number to let her know that she was okay. I couldn't get signal. They didn't leave, by the way, until they filled the ambulance. I originally said, how come we're not going? They says, we can't leave until we fill the ambulance. They wanted to put at least 6, 7, or 8 people into the ambulance before they took off. Virginia was like writhing in pain. She was just like, I can't do this. Anyway, we finally get to the point where the EMT there says, okay, we can go. We're ready to go. So Virginia turns to me, she says to me, Ari, you're coming with us. Now, I didn't want to get into that ambulance because I didn't know where they were going, look, I was in a place where I knew where I was. If I had to get someplace else from where I was, I would know how to do that, right? Because this is where the thought of getting into the ambulance and going to who knows where didn't excite me. And besides, you know what? Once that ambulance leaves, there's only one place I'm going, and that's back into the building. Because I'm looking for my friends, I'm looking at coworkers, I'm looking to help. That's just my nature. So I said, Virginia, you don't need me anymore. I'm going to get a hold of your mom. She'll meet you at the hospital. You're going to be okay. She literally turned to the ambulance driver and says, we're not leaving unless he comes with us. And the ambulance driver looks at me, and I look at him, and I see in his eyes, he's thinking, buddy, this is not a cab service. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't need a cab. I said, you know what? Maybe for our own psychological well-being, maybe I should go. He says, fine, hop into the front. And I got into the front of the ambulance, and we pulled away. We were one of only a few ambulances that actually got away from the scene that day. Virginia thanks me every day for saving her life. And I say, you got it all wrong. Who saved whose life? If she wouldn't have insisted that I get into that ambulance, I would have been standing at the base of that building. When it came down, I'd be dead. No doubt in my mind. But she insisted. And that's why I'm around today.
One of the concepts that, you were one of 4 that survived out of, it was like 600 people that worked in your building? Or worked?
No, there were 900. We employed 960 people on the top 5 floors.
Okay.
662 of them were actually in the building that day.
Right.
158 were in their offices on the upper floors, and 4 were on their way up, all right, basically on the 78th floor when the plane hit. And 3 of them were so severely burned, they spent months and months in hospitals undergoing surgeries and rehabilitation. And I walked out without a scratch. God was just looking out for me that day.
One of the components that I've heard often, as I follow a lot of military personnel, and there's this tremendous survivor's guilt, either on both ends. First of all, like I interviewed a guy who he flies the Thunderbirds, and his F-16 crashed, and just the experience of like, how in the world, like, how do I make it out of an airplane and survive? And that's one component. On the other hand, you hear people that, they're one of, there's the idea of making it out of something you shouldn't have made it out of. And the second thing is you made it out and nobody else did, or very few other people did. So it's almost on both ends. There's like this, did you have a sense of like survivor guilt, a sense of like, why me? Like how did that manifest itself for you?
Okay, so I think why me and survivor's guilt to me are two different things. All right. I will be very, very honest with you. Okay. I do not suffer from survivor's guilt. I am so happy that I made it out. My family is happy that I made it out. Okay. I do not feel guilty about surviving. The question is the question of why me. That's an interesting question. Now, the question of why me, what I figured out was I've got the gift of gab. All right. I am not afraid to stand up in front of an audience. You know, they say that man's two biggest fears, you know what they are? Number
Debt,
one,
speaking, or taxes? No, debt,
number
taxes.
one,
Right.
no, number one is public speaking, and number two is death.
Yeah.
Those are man's two biggest fears, which means if you're at a funeral, you would rather be in the box than delivering the eulogy.
Right.
But I've been given the gift of gab, and I've been given the gift that I can stand up in front of 1,000 people and tell my story without any fear whatsoever. So I think, I think God wanted me to spread the word, so to speak, talk about the miracles that happened, because there were many miracles. I didn't go through a whole lot, it's the time's short, but there are many, many miracles. You can read about it in my book, by the way. I wrote a book called Miracles and Fate on 78. And it tells my whole story. And in there, you'll see all the different miracles that happened to me on that day. So I felt that it was important that, I have a mission. I have something that needs to be done. And since I started, my first talk was 6 weeks after the event, believe it or not, when I was invited to speak in the neighborhood. And I've been telling my story ever since. And I have been inspiring thousands upon thousands of people. And, that's a big thing. And, I think so. I really believe that I was saved because this needed to be done. That was number one.
Can I just, a couple of things, I'm so sorry to interrupt. A couple of things I just wanted to repeat back that just popped out for me, which were fascinating. First of all, you said that because you quickly saw a mission, you saw a value, you have this sense of yourself that I have these gifts. And then you right away started sharing the experience to inspire other people. Also, you mentioned the fact that you have a family and that you also, I'm assuming this is probably not the first time you thought about God and all these kinds of things. You had a foundation of your faith. So these were all things that let you walk out of the unthinkable. Not only did it break, again, and it's so important because we're in, again, not to overshare, and hopefully people will listen to this for, years and years in the future, but like we're in a place right now where people could break all the time because there's so much uncertainty, and you certainly don't have a tragedy like losing your whole company and September 11th and everything like that, but like people are losing their mind because it says they don't have the family, they don't have the sense of self, and they don't have that sense of their relationship with God. And you had that, and it allowed you right away. You didn't even hesitate to say, no, you own that. It's unbelievable. Is that accurate?
Pretty much okay. So.
Keep going. So tell me. So you were about to say a second point, but I probably derailed you.
The second point was my wife and I had 4 children. And after my 4th child was born, the doctor diagnosed my wife and they told her she wouldn't be able to have any more kids. And, we discussed and we were like, we're fine. We had 2 boys, 2 girls, nice family. We were fine with it. 2 years after 9/11, which was 8.5 years after my last child was born, my son Yoni came along. I once went to a makubal, right? One of these Kabbalist guys. And this guy was like the real deal. And it was when my wife was pregnant with my 5th child, with Yoni. And, we were scared. We were older and we were nervous. And we went to this makubal to get some advice. And he looks at us and he turns to my wife and he said, "Did you ever lose a child?" And my wife said, in between my 2nd and 3rd, I had an ovarian cyst and they had to take it out. And it turns out I was 6 weeks pregnant and they had to terminate the pregnancy in order to take the cyst out. And he looked at us and he said, "That neshama is what's in you right now. It wasn't ready to come down then. It's ready to come down now, and that's the same neshama.
I would have lost my mind.
Let me tell you, I had chills, shivers down my spine, because like, how did he know? That's what I'm saying. This guy was the real deal. So I think that, because Yoni needed to be born, that's why I got out.
Wow. So that perspective also, that you see people have a tendency to fold into themselves, it sounds like. And what you've done is you're essentially saying that you have to assign your existence to something that's bigger than you. And it doesn't have to be like, sacrificing your life on the altar of freedom, so to speak, like someone that would go to war. Even raising one child, even making someone's life better. I mean, you've had the opportunity for thousands of people, but you would, I'm sure, say that even one person that you can say, I'm there to serve them, to make their day life experience better, that justifies what I had to go through and me being here. Is that accurate?
Without a doubt. I always say, when I talk, when I get up in front of an audience, I say, if I can connect with one person, I've done my job. All right. I just need to connect with one. Now, Baruch Hashem, thank God, I connect with a lot of people. Okay, I really do. I get standing ovations every time I speak, which is great. It gives me a lot of, chizuk, gives me a lot of energy, and it's just something that's really, really important to do.
In the world of we see so much that there's, these influencers and that everyone might be saying to themselves, what does it matter? I don't have 100,000, 200,000, 10,000, a million followers. And what you said is seemingly the exact opposite of that, which is, it doesn't matter how many followers you have, go to serve one, and everything else on top of that is going to be beneficial.
Right, correct. It's interesting because there was a Navy Admiral, William H. McCraven.
Yeah, he's great.
You know him?
Yeah.
So, he basically said, he gave a commencement speech at the University of Texas. Amazing. And you heard that? You heard him?
Tell me, please.
Oh, so he basically said there were like 8,000 students that were graduating. And he basically said that there was studies done that each person in their life will meet 10,000 people. They will get to meet 10,000 people. He said, so if you change the life of just one person that you meet, okay, and all 8,000 now change the lives of the 10,000 people they're going to meet, all right, within I think he said, within 10 years, I think he said, again, I don't remember the numbers. No, within that generation, within 3 generations, they will have touched 800 million people. So you want to change the world, all you got to do is one person at a time. You do it. It's the multiplying effect. It's basic. It's like I say, I like to say, it's simple math. But it's so true. It's so true. And I think that people are afraid. People are very much afraid. They just, a lot of people like to keep to themselves. They don't want to. I'll tell you a very funny story, because I like to make people laugh. I really do. I'm a schmoozer. I like to make people laugh. I'll never forget. I once got onto an elevator. It was a crowded elevator. Now, when you get onto an elevator, what do? You walk in, right? And you turn around, the door closes, and everybody's facing the door, right? Well, I walked into this elevator. I didn't turn around. I stood there. It was a crowded elevator. The doors closed. And right after the doors closed, I went, you're probably all wondering why I called this meeting. Everybody in the elevator laughed, and I guarantee you each one of those people had a good day that day because their day started off good. All right, and that's why I tell people, start your day off good, and the rest of it will be a piece of cake. Look, we live in a tough time now. COVID this is scary. All right, I think to many degrees, it's scarier than 9/11. All right, because we can't fight it. You can fight terrorism. All right, you can fight an enemy that you can see, but we can't see this enemy. right? And it's very difficult. So people are going through a lot of difficult times, and they just don't know how to cope. And that's one of the things that I do in my new mentoring program. All right, I teach people how to cope, especially in this environment. It certainly pertains to, in general, it's much easier when it's not like when the environment isn't like this. But certainly in this environment that we're currently in, I teach people how to deal with it, and then I give them the strength, and I give them assignments. I tell them what they need to do, and there are many different things that you can do, all right, to stay sane. So,
with your permission, I would love to hear. I want to hear a lot about your course. Right before we transition to that, I wanted to ask one thing that I guess you had this unbelievably harrowing experience. And a lot of times people think to themselves, maybe I'm thinking back into like the Jews in the desert in Egypt and kind of always needing that reinforcement. You had this moment that changed your life. It seems to me that you've been able to carry that inspiration with you up until the modern time, whatever it was. It was years and years and years. What do you attribute? What allowed you to have that experience and to be able to change your life? Because so often people have experiences. Again, within your major story, you saw, you have millions of little things that happen that could have changed your life if you had paid attention to it, right? But people have these huge things happen and they're the same person a week later. So how did you keep that inspiration?
The reason that it stuck with me, and this is very, very important, I didn't change overnight. And as I was changing, it wasn't large wholesale changes. I didn't say I'm changing my life. I'm going to go to yeshiva, I'm going to sit and learn. All right. It wasn't like that. As a matter of fact, I was the same guy on Wednesday that I was on Tuesday. Nothing for me had changed other than the fact that I lost 658 friends and coworkers, but my life didn't change, so to speak. What happened was, as I started to tell my story and it started to sink in, the miracles that happened, I realized, oh my God, this is out of the ordinary. And so slowly, very slowly, I started to change one thing at a time. I took a little bit on more, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And as I went on, I believe I became more religious, all right? But I believe I became more spiritual. And I was able to keep this going because I did it slowly. All right. You're right. People that, if something happens, and then 3 days later, they're back to where they were and it's all gone. And what? All right. You can't, if you try to do it too quick or too much, it's never, ever going to last. It's like starting a diet, right? When you start a diet, what are you going to do? I'm starting a diet. I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Okay. You don't lose anything. All right. You're off the diet in a week. All right. It's all over. Right. The issue is because it's too big. You can't wrap your arms around it. All right. If you say to yourself, I'm going to lose 2 pounds next week, that's very doable. All right. And then the following week, you say, you know what? I'm going to lose 2 pounds this week. And that's very doable. And within a year, you've lost 100 pounds.
I want to just get your feedback on what it makes me emotional. What you said, the power of telling your story, and I think it's twofold. Again, we don't need a September 11th. That was your journey, but oftentimes people look at their life, and I think what's so beautiful about you said a lot of beautiful things. One of the things that I took away from it is by being able to tell your story in a way that's constructive and helps other people. So then it's not really, in a lot of ways, it's not for them because you start to change. And so the way that you've been able to build your personal development was by telling your story, by being unique to who you were, by reflecting on your own life circumstances. And for the average person, again, we're not trying to replicate, these horrific situations again. Would you say that everyone should try to do that? Is that something that everyone has their defining moments and they really have to kind of plug into who they are in order to find that kind of ongoing inspiration?
I think everybody does. I really do. I think, we have certain inner strengths that get buried. All right, and it gets buried for a myriad of reasons. People putting you down, how often is it that somebody stands up and says, you know what, I've made the decision, I'm gonna go into business for myself, I have an idea, all right? And what's the first thing that people do? That'll never work. What are you, crazy? You know, you have a good job, where are you trying, what are you trying to do? And they knock him down. And then he just goes like, oh, you know what, maybe they're right. Oh, yeah, never mind, forget it. And they get stuck in all right, you've got an inner strength. First, one of the most important things is to surround yourself with positive people, okay? That's really, and that's not easy either, because I would say 80 to 90% of the world are very, very negative. They're negative people, all right? And it's very, very difficult. But you have to find those people, the like-minded people that want to do better, that want to be better, you know, a family standpoint, from a work standpoint, from, you know, a social life standpoint. This is what, I mean, who doesn't want a better life? Everybody wants a better life. And and by the way, when I say better, all right, it's not necessarily financially. It could be professionally, it could be personally, you know, your relationship with your wife, your relationship with your kids. Those aren't monetary things. All right, but yet they're so important in life. These are the things that make you successful. You don't have to be a multi-billionaire to consider yourself successful. You can be successful in so many other ways, right? That it's not all about the money. I talk about that a lot. It's not all about the money, right? It's you, your relationships, and, you know, work-life balance. I mean, all of these things. All of these things.
And then the money usually tends to follow if you're good with yourself and if you're happy in your life, hopefully speaking. And even if it doesn't, you're okay because you built wealth around you.
Exactly. Yes, sometimes the money comes, but you know what? I don't want to tell people, oh, do this and the money will come, because you know what? It may not come, but you will be more fulfilled. All right. If you follow, you know, the path that I'm carving out for you, you'll feel more fulfilled. You may not be wealthier in money, all right? But believe me, you know what? I am wealthier. My boss, my ex-boss, my old boss, all right, who's worth, I don't know, $3 billion, okay? I think I'm happier than he is, all right? I think I'm happier than he is, because he's constantly under stress. All right, think about it. He runs a multi-billion-dollar company. It's, you know, the good times, the bad times, all the things he goes through, the stress that he's constantly under. All right. I mean, I think that I just think I'm happier than he is. All right. I don't have a garage full of, you know, mint cars and, you know, exotic cars and the like. Right. But you know what? I need to get to the supermarket and back. Trust me, my Rogue is fine. No issue there. You know what I'm saying? I don't need all that. So
do you, amazing. So tell me a little bit more. I think also that's so crucial. Creating a program.
Yes.
And there are, I love it on two levels. First of all, the fact that you have such a unique story and you're thinking through, how do I help more people? So you went around and you spoke a lot, but now you're like, we're gonna drill down and we're actually gonna do it kind of interactive. So that's one thing that's absolutely amazing, is that a person has to continually find how do they apply their story to just more and more and more. The second question is, there are so many programs out there. Why do you create a new one? Why is that important? I have a very clear reason for why I'm asking you this, because so many people feel like, well, it's all been done, so like, why should I do something? So tell me why you're doing this, why now, and why it's important for you.
There is room in the world for thousands of programs.
Oh.
There is, okay? And the fact is, and the evidence points it out, why? Because there are thousands of programs, all right? So one more, one less, there's room for everybody. But my program, one of the reasons I did my program was what I teach comes out of a real life experience, All right. A lot of people, they build a program out of the books they read, what they learned in college, all these things, but not anything that they actually went through. Right. The best speakers, the best motivational speakers are those that went through something. The trials, tribulations. I mean, one of my all-time favorite is Les Brown.
Yeah.
Les Brown, he's absolutely amazing. And you know what? When he was in 8th grade, they told him he was educably mentally retarded, right? And look where he is today. I mean, if he is still alive, right?
I saw him on Facebook Live today, so hopefully so.
Okay, right. So I think my program is built around my personal experiences. All right, that's something that you can't replicate.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You can't build my program because you didn't go through it. So that's why I built the program, in order to be able to help people understand, what's going on in life, what's going on in their lives, and how they can improve it. I mean, that's what it boils down to. It's all about the outcome. All right. Are you going to be better off in 8 weeks after my program than you are today? If you do the work, I guarantee it. Okay. People say to me, do you give guarantees? I said, sure, I give guarantees. I guarantee that if you don't do this program, you're going to be no better off in 8 weeks than you are today. That's my guarantee.
For sure. So maybe in the time we have left, if you could tell me a little bit about what ideally, like a person, if they're thinking about, okay, is it time for me to start to, again, so many people think to themselves, okay, COVID, and like, I'm so overwhelmed right now and it's so difficult. And, again, like you brought up, like, how do I cope and how does this whole thing work? So when should a person, or how does a person make a decision? I need to go on a path to development, and what should they be thinking as they go into working on your course, or in general, a path of growth?
Okay, so two different questions, right?
I'm Jewish. That's how it goes.
Huh?
I said I'm Jewish. That's how it goes.
All right. As to the when is easy. Yesterday.
Okay.
That's the when.
Okay.
Right? Because let's be real. Okay. If you have a problem, okay, I'll give you an example. You're sick, right? You have some whatever it is. You're not sure what it is. You need to go to the doctor. Okay. Are you going to go to the doctor today to take care of it? Or you're going to say, no, you know what? I'm going to get better all by myself. All right. And then a week goes by and 2 weeks go by and you're still sick, right? It's like, you need to go to the doctor. No, I can't. Yeah. Okay. That's what people do. All right. That's what they do with their lives. All right. My life needs to get better. Well, what are you doing to make it better? Well, the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's insanity. But yet, that's what people do every single day. Every single day. All right? They don't do anything to help them with those changes. So when do you need it? You need it yesterday. And I'll be honest with you, it doesn't have to be my program. Right? I personally believe everybody needs inspiration. Everybody needs motivation. You don't like me, that's okay. All right. There are plenty of guys out there that you can go to. I mean, I hope you'll come to me because I think I'm really, really good and I can really help you. All right. But if you don't, okay, not a big deal. There are 7 billion people in the world. Okay. Trust me, you're not going to be the guy that's going to make me go broke by not joining. Anyway, so that's that. What was your second question?
Second question is, I don't recall, but that was such a good answer. Okay, great. So then maybe tell me a little bit more how people can find out more about you, about your program, next steps.
Very easy. If they want to find out about my program, they can just schedule a call with me. All right. And it's very easy to find that. It's www.callwithari.com. Okay. www.callwithari.com. They have to just go to that link. It'll take them right to my calendar. They can click on a date and time that they want to talk, and we'll get the dialogue started.
It's outstanding. This was so wonderful. I really appreciate you making the time to come speak. And anyone that's listening, I so encourage the course, the book, everything. Thank you so much. It's really profound.
Thank you, Jacob. I appreciate you having me on.
My pleasure.
Hi again, Ari Schoenbrunn here. I hope you enjoyed that interview. Now let me ask you a question. Are you under pressure due to COVID or the current unrest throughout the US? Or maybe it's something totally unrelated that's stressing you out? Is your work-life balance totally unbalanced? How about your team? What describes your team? Something like terrible execution amidst mediocrity? Or do you feel like you're not living up to your full potential? Or maybe you feel like you're totally drowning? Do you need help with your leadership skills? Well, if you answered yes to any of these questions, then this 8-week mentoring program, Decide, Change, Succeed, just might be for you. You learn how to cope with whatever life is throwing at you, whether it's 9/11, Sandy, COVID, or any other issues. You learn how to become a better you, how to manage change, mental toughness, teamwork. Whether you're an individual looking to improve yourself or you're a team leader in the corporate world, this could be just what you're looking for. Now, if you'd like to learn more, schedule a call with me at www.callwithari.com. That's www.callwithari.com. Now, I can't call you, so the ball's in your court. And remember, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. If that's what you're doing, then let's get on a call and see if this is right for you. Now, I can't guarantee you'll be accepted to the program, but we won't know that until we speak. Once again, www.callwithari.com. Schedule a time on my calendar, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. Thanks a lot.